a story of hope involving a local veteran who finally got the help he needed when dealing with depression. Here now to talk about their mission is Dr. Georgine Nanos from the Kind Health Group and veteran John Van Cleef. Dr. Nano and John, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Teresa. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's such an important and emotional topic, talking about depression. And sometimes it's easy for us to talk about it, but no one understands what it really feels like. So, John, I'm so glad that you're here talking about your experience. But Dr. Nanos, tell us when you met John and tell us about the treatment.
John and I met quite a while ago. We worked on some community service projects together and we became friends, and he reached out to me about a year ago. He was going through a particularly difficult time with depression, and at that time we were about to launch a new study around TMS, which stands for transcranial magnetic stimulation. And TMS is probably the best treatment we have in medicine today for anxiety and depression, but it's very grossly underutilized. And what it is it uses magnetic field energy to penetrate these deep areas in our brain where our anxiety and depression centers lie. And for all of us as humans, anytime we're exposed to any negative event in our lives, whether it's a trauma, a stress, a challenge, a death, anything that's stressful, we start to develop these negative loops in our brains, and it gets hard sometimes to get out of those loops. You get stuck. And so what TMS does is very safely and non-invasively creates new positive connections in the brain in that area where we regulate our emotions. And what it then can do is, after you finish a series of TMS treatments, when you're exposed to other stressors again, you can better emotionally regulate, and you have better resilience, and you can cope. And so it is very effective in treating a lot of mental health disorders, including, and most importantly, depression. And so at the time when John reached out to me last year, we were about to start a study that was reducing the number of treatments that you do for TMS from a 40-day treatment to a single-day treatment. So it's a really big advancement in TMS treatments. And so he was able to participate in that one-day protocol study that we were doing, which was incredibly successful. And he's here to talk about it today.
Yeah, Dr. Nanos, thank you for sharing more about the treatment and when John reached out to you. Before I talk to you about having the courage to reach out to a doctor to treat your depression, take us back when you started to feel that you were depressed.
Well, I think it's, as I look back on my life, right, it's something that is a part of my family health history. And then I can, track back to, experiences I had as a combat veteran and those situations, and then see moments when, depression is a cyclical thing throughout, my adult life. And it was really in the last year and a half or so, I started, I've seen a therapist, right? I talked to my a doctor, and I take medicine to help support that. But I wasn't feeling buoyant anymore, right? It wasn't helping me kind of with the day-to-day. And I was actually in a conversation with Dr. Nanos, and she's all like, you're depressed. And it was carrying. And as I thought about that and sat with it, I realized that it's like, I am. And I really want to do something about this, because what's happening and what I'm doing right now isn't really helping all the way. And I looked at, there are other alternate therapies out there, and as I looked at, those kinds of options, and as I looked more into TMS, I knew it was the right thing, and so I called. And the thing I've learned, and the thing that's important is, like heart health, brain health is something we got to take care of. And so I needed help, and I got help. And
you're feeling better with the TMS treatment?
Oh my gosh. Like the day of the treatment, right? Depression, like sometimes I felt paralyzed. I'd sit and stare at a computer for an hour trying to figure out what to do, right? With work, just wanting to stay in bed. Sometimes I'd feel like anxious about being around people. So a lot of different emotions. And the day I went in for treatment, I came out a totally different person that day. And in the weeks afterward, my own internal capacity to deal with some of the events of my life and feelings and emotions, to be able to get into the stuff to help me, regulate and move forward was, again, night and day difference.
We'll have to leave it there,
Yeah.
but John, I appreciate you sharing your story and you coping with depression and getting the treatment that you need, and we're so glad to hear that you're feeling better.
Yeah.
We appreciate you sharing your story. Dr. Nanos, thank you so much for sharing more about the TMS treatment. We look forward to having you back.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.